Dr. Night Echoes. Good evening all, and welcome. Tonight I have a chilling collection of skinwalkers. Let the darkness swallow the rest. We stopped at the highway McDonald's because we both needed a break. It was late and the place looked almost empty. I parked near the side where the lights from the drive-thru didn't reach well. My wife went inside to order coffee while I stayed out for a cigarette. I had just lit it when she came back out. She didn't even look at me first. Her eyes were fixed behind the car, like she was trying to make sense of something moving back there. I asked her what happened, but she only pointed and told me not to make any sudden noise.
I thought maybe a stray dog or someone messing around. I called out, asking who was there. The sound echoed strangely in the empty lot. For a second, nothing moved, and I thought I was imagining things. Then, something lifted its head from behind the trunk. Two eyes were staring at me. They weren't shining like reflections. They were glowing on their own. This pale yellow color that didn't look right on any animal I've ever seen. I froze. My wife stepped closer to me, but she didn't speak. The thing stood up a little more, and that's when I realized it wasn't a person crouching. It had thick hair all over its body, the kind that looked matted and long, like it hadn't been dry in months.
The shape of it was wrong, too. Its arms hung too low. Its chest looked too narrow. I could see it breathing, but the breaths were too slow, almost controlled. It didn't growl or move toward us. It just looked like it was studying us. I felt something in my chest tighten because it didn't blink at all, not once. Then it suddenly turned and sprinted toward the woods behind the building. No sound of footsteps, just this fast blur disappearing into the dark. My wife grabbed my hand and dragged me toward the entrance. We didn't stop running until we were inside and under the lights. I kept watching the glass door, expecting those eyes to appear again. I still don't know how something that big moved without a sound. And I don't know why it was waiting behind our car like it knew we would stop there. We were camping in the Arizona woods, just three of us. We had a few drinks around 11 p.m. and went into the tent when the fire started dying. I fell asleep fast, but sometime after midnight I woke up because I heard footsteps outside. Slow, careful steps. At first I thought it was part of a dream, so I stayed still and waited to hear it again. A few seconds later, the steps circled the tent, not rushing, not sneaking, just walking like whoever it was already knew exactly where we were. My friend beside me sat up and whispered if I heard that. I said yes. None of us moved after that. We figured it might be coyotes or maybe a mountain lion. The woods were quiet enough for anything to get close. We shut off the small lantern and looked through the corner of the tent, where the fabric lifted just enough to see shapes outside. At first, I only saw our cooler and the leftover food we didn't pack up. Then, something stepped into view. It wasn't on four legs. It stood upright. Its back was hunched a little, like it was trying to make itself smaller. But even then, it was close to 6 feet. The light from the dying fire wasn't enough to show its face, but its outline was wrong. Arms too long, shoulders too narrow, legs that bent a little strange, like it wasn't used to standing that way. It crouched over our leftover barbecue and started eating. Not chewing, not sniffing, just pulling pieces into its mouth, like it had been starving. I couldn't hear breathing, only the soft, tearing sounds and the dirt shifting under its feet. None of us spoke. We barely breathed. Every second felt like it could turn toward the tent. When it finished, it stood up fast,
almost too fast. Then it leaped toward the woods in a single movement. No running, no build-up, just one jump, and it disappeared between the trees. We didn't sleep after that. None of us even moved until the sun finally showed. And the worst part is knowing that whatever it was, wasn't afraid of us at all.
We were on a school field trip, staying in a line of old cottages that sagged toward the edge of the woods. The teachers warned us not to go past the property line, but after dinner, my friend and I wandered toward the trees anyway. The woods looked calm from where we stood, and we told ourselves we'd only step in far enough to say we did it. We barely made it 500 meters before the air changed. At first, there were coyote calls in the distance, normal, familiar. Then came the heavier sounds. Not footsteps, not branches cracking, just these dull, heavy thumps, like something dropping from above and waiting.
Every time we tried to shrug it off, the woods grew quieter, as if they were trying to hear us breathe. My friend kept flashing the light between the trees. The beam felt weak, swallowed by the dark. Then something shifted on our right, fast, deliberate, not walking, more like something bracing its weight against a trunk. We swung the light toward it. I thought it was a bear for half a second, but the outline was wrong. It stood too straight, its shoulders too human. Thick black fur covered it, but its arms hung long, ending in fingers that curled around the bark like they were made for climbing. Its eyes glowed a low, steady red, as if reflecting a light we couldn't see. The moment our flashlight hit it, its mouth opened wide, not in hunger, more like a warning. The sound it made didn't belong in those woods. A low, rumbling growl, layered with a clicking noise, and underneath it something that felt intentional. Its teeth were long, sharp, unnervingly clean, and in one hand, dangling as if weightless, it held a limp raccoon, caught mid-movement, frozen in its grip. Before we could process it, the thing pushed off the trunk and soared to another tree. Not a fall, not a climb, a leap, high, fluid, wrong. That's when we understood how tall it really was. 7 feet at least, maybe more when it stretched. We didn't speak, we just ran. Branches scraped past us until the dim glow of the cottages cut through the dark. We never said a word to the teachers, but lying in my bed that night, I kept replaying the moment we turned to run and how it didn't follow, like it didn't have to.
We were driving through miles of empty countryside, the kind of stretch where the woods lean close to the freeway. My girlfriend played soft music, and everything felt peaceful until the car jerked hard. The engine sputtered, died, and we rolled to a stop in the dark with nothing around us for miles. I called roadside assistance, turned the hazard lights on, and kept glancing at the trees. The woods felt wrong. Not loud, not alive. Just heavy, like the air itself was listening. Then something crossed the road. It walked on 2 legs, maybe 5 feet tall, moving at a steady pace. Not running, not scared, like it knew exactly where it was going. My girlfriend saw it too. She asked what it was, and the only thing I managed to say was, maybe a bear, even though I knew it wasn't. It slipped into the woods, and the quiet came back like a blanket dropping. 10 minutes later, as my girlfriend leaned back to rest, the car lurched backwards, hard, like someone hooked a rope to the bumper and pulled. I stared into the rearview mirror.
It was behind the car, the same figure, but it wasn't walking. It was dragging itself across the asphalt with its arms, pulling its weight forward like its legs didn't work or didn't need to. My girlfriend woke up. She saw my face and started to scream, but I covered her mouth. Making noise felt like a terrible idea. The creature stayed there for minutes, barely lit by the brake lights. Then, without a sound, it turned and slipped into the woods. I still don't understand how something that small moved a whole car, and I don't think I ever want to. I was halfway through a horror movie when I heard a strange hissing outside. At first, I ignored it. Maybe a pipe, maybe the wind. But the sound grew slower, deeper, like someone taking long breaths against the wall. I muted the TV. The breathing didn't stop. It was right outside my window. I leaned forward to look, and that's when I saw the shape pressed against the glass. Big, too big, and its eyes glowed in a way that didn't match any reflection. Steady, unblinking, fixed directly on me. The window fogged from the cold, and I watched the fog shift with its breath. Then something dragged across the glass. Slow, wet, like a tongue sliding over it. I turned off the TV and every light in the house. I didn't want it to know where I moved. I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the floor. That's when the footsteps started. Not outside, on the roof. They crossed above me, deliberate and heavy, like something was crawling slowly across the shingles. The ceiling creaked as it shifted its weight. Every breath I took felt too loud. It stayed for a long time, long enough that I stopped checking the clock. Then, a single, heavy thud above my window, and silence. I didn't sleep. I sat there waiting. When my dad pulled into the driveway at dawn, the sound of his engine echoed through the house. Right after that, something landed outside, hard, like it had jumped. I heard branches breaking as it ran toward the mountains. Dad said it was an animal, but no animal I know stands tall enough for its eyes to look straight into mine. I'd just finished dinner when I took my dog, Jimmy, for our usual walk. The countryside was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like a blanket over everything. We followed the road beside the woods when I felt something pacing us. Not behind us, inside the tree line. Every few steps, leaves shifted. Soft, steady, matching our rhythm. Jimmy's ears were pinned forward, his stare locked on the darkness between the trees. Then he let out a growl I'd never heard before. I tried to pull him close, but before I finished saying his name, something exploded out of the woods. A blur of fur, teeth, motion too fast to understand. Jimmy yelped once, then he was gone. Dragged sideways into the trees like he weighed nothing. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. Branches snapped and Jimmy's barking shifted into something else. Something cut off too abruptly. I ran home shaking and called 911, but I couldn't explain anything beyond something took my dog. The next morning I went back. I don't know what I expected, but there was almost nothing. Just disturbed dirt, a few drops of dried blood, and silence. No tracks, no sign of Jimmy. The officers said it was probably a predator, but predators don't pace you from the side, and they don't disappear without leaving a single trace. My grandpa owns a small farm, sheep, a few cows, a cattle shed he built himself. He's used to nighttime noises,
So when something actually woke him, he knew it wasn't normal. The first thing he noticed wasn't sound. It was the smell. Sharp, sour, like wet fur mixed with something metallic. Not wolf, not hyena. Something in between. Something wrong. Before he reached the door, the sheep started panicking. Real panic. The kind that makes the whole pen shake. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out. The smell grew stronger. Then he heard it. Claws dragging across the wooden walls of the cattle shed. Slow. Testing. Like something was feeling the structure from the outside. He shouted, thinking maybe a cow knocked something over. The scratching stopped instantly. The entire farm went silent. The sheep huddled in the far corner like something was pressing them there. Fresh claw marks carved deep into the wood. Too wide, too long to belong to anything that should have been on that property. Something moved behind the fence. Massive. He caught only its back half. Thick fur, heavy muscles, and a strange lurching stride, like its body wasn't entirely sure how to walk. When the flashlight found it, it didn't run. It melted deeper into the shadows. As he approached the pen, he saw a sheep near the gate. Still, its neck torn in one clean bite. Before he processed it, something slammed into the far side of the pen hard enough to shake the ground. Another sheep lifted off the dirt like it was weightless. For a split second, he saw the creature's outline. Broad shoulders, long arms, moving upright but wrong in every way a body could be wrong. It stared toward the lights behind him, then slipped into the trees without a single sound. The next morning, the smell was gone. The claw marks remained, just blood. He still says it was probably a bear, but he keeps a floodlight on the shed every night now. We were celebrating our anniversary by camping deep in the woods. Around midnight, a sound woke me up. A slow, heavy drumbeat. Not music, not echo. Something thick, like someone striking a hollow log. My wife sat up immediately. We laughed it off, but the sound didn't stop. Each beat felt like it was guiding us somewhere. And, for some reason, we followed it. The woods were completely silent except for the drums. No firelight, no voices, just that steady pulse drawing us forward. When we reached a clearing, a statue stood in the center. It wasn't shaped like anything I recognized, jagged in some places, smooth in others, like it was twisting in more directions than it should. A group of people stood around it, all facing inward. No one spoke, no one turned. Their movements were practiced, almost ritualistic. Then cages were brought out. The monkeys inside thrashed against the bars, terrified. The moment they were lifted, the drumming stopped. I didn't see everything clearly, but I saw enough. The people collected the blood with precision, almost reverence. The bowl was passed around. Then hyenas were brought forward, their bodies jerking like they were fighting something inside. When they were forced to drink, chaos erupted. They dragged handlers to the ground, ropes straining. Then the remaining blood was thrown at the statue, and the chanting started. Not words, just a deep, vibrating sound that made the air feel thick. My wife tugged my sleeve. We didn't speak. We ran until our legs shook, packed everything in minutes, and drove off without looking back. But as we fled the clearing, I glanced at the statue one last time. I swear its head was turned slightly toward us, like it had noticed.